I swear she's starting to believe it." The words weren't meant for Iris. They came from behind her, careless and amused, carried on laughter that didn't bother to lower itself. "How long do you think before she catches on?" another voice asked. "Does it matter? Blair said 2 weeks. I'm betting 3." Iris stopped walking. Not because she understood what they meant, she didn't, but because something in her chest tightened, sharp and instinctive, the way it always did right before embarrassment found her. She stood there for half a second too long, backpack slipping slightly off her shoulder, heart beating harder than the situation justified. When she turned, the group had already dissolved, laughter fading into the hum of the quad like it had never belonged to her at all. "You're being paranoid," she told herself. She adjusted her bag and kept walking. That was how it always started. At Hawthorne State University, dares were never announced. There were no chants, no countdowns, no obvious cruelty. Hawthorne preferred subtlety, the kind that passed as humor, the kind that could be denied later if anyone asked the wrong questions. Dares lived in group chats with names that sounded harmless, in screenshots shared with emojis instead of commentary, in half-joking suggestions that everyone understood without needing to say out loud. They were social currency, and Iris Halden didn't know she was one of them. She was a transfer student, new enough to still read campus maps, old enough to know that belonging was never automatic. Iris moved through the world carefully, like someone who had learned that attention could tip into danger without warning. She said sorry when someone bumped into her. She thanked people too often. She believed effort earned safety. That belief made her visible. Hawthorne didn't feel hostile. If anything, it felt polished. Posters about inclusivity lining the walls, professors emphasizing respect and dialogue. But beneath that surface ran a quieter hierarchy, one built not on rules, but on attention. Who was watched? Who was admired? Who was used? Across the quad, Blair Knox laughed with her friends. Her laughter didn't demand attention, it redirected it. Conversations bent toward her naturally, like gravity. Blair didn't perform dominance, she embodied it. People leaned in, eager to be included, eager to be approved of. She was confident in a way that felt effortless, curated without looking rehearsed. Blair knew exactly how much of herself to give and exactly when to pull it back. When Iris's name came up, it was casual, a comment tossed between messages and inside jokes. Someone mentioned how earnest she was, how easy it was to fluster her, how she looked like she'd apologize even if someone else was wrong. "Kinda sweet," someone said. The word landed the way it always did, soft, dismissive, dangerous. Blair didn't respond right away. That pause was small. It mattered anyway. She followed the line of sight across the quad until she spotted Iris near the library steps, shifting her weight, checking her phone like she was waiting for permission to exist in the space. Blair felt a flicker of curiosity. Not attraction. Not yet. Interest. Interest, she knew, could be turned into anything. Days passed. Classes settled. Iris found her rhythm slowly, cautiously. She spoke in lectures when called on, her voice steady even when her hands trembled slightly. She took notes meticulously. Professors noticed her. So did everyone else. Blair noticed her for the first time in political ethics. Not because Iris was loud, she wasn't, but because her comment cut cleanly through the discussion. Thoughtful, precise, unconcerned with impressing anyone. The room shifted. Blair smiled to herself. After class, she waited until the hallway thinned. She stepped beside Iris like it was coincidence, like their paths had simply aligned. "Your point about institutional harm," Blair said easily. "That was sharp." Iris startled, color rising in her cheeks. "Oh, thank you, I wasn't sure if it made sense." "It did," Blair said. She slowed her stride without thinking, matching Iris's pace. "You're new, right?" "Yes," Iris said. "Transfer." "Welcome to Hawthorne." The words felt warm, personal. They walked together longer than necessary. Blair asked questions, where Iris was from, what she studied, and listened closely enough that Iris relaxed despite herself. For someone used to fading into backgrounds, being noticed like this felt unreal. When Blair asked her out for coffee, Iris hesitated, not because she didn't want to, because wanting had always cost her something. Still, she said yes. That night, Iris lay awake replaying the conversation, smiling into her pillow, then pressing her face into it to quiet the fragile hope blooming in her chest. She told herself not to overthink it, not to assume kindness meant intention, but as she drifted toward sleep, the laughter from earlier replayed in her mind. I swear she's starting to believe it. Iris hugged her pillow tighter. She hoped, quietly, desperately, that she was wrong. She hoped it wasn't just a dare, because Iris Halden had learned early that when something felt like attention, it often turned out to be a game. And games, at Hawthorne State, always had winners. By the next afternoon, Iris had convinced herself the voices she'd overheard weren't about her. Hawthorne was full of conversations that sounded sharper than they were. People joked, people exaggerated, people laughed loudly to prove they belonged. Iris told herself it was normal, that her brain was doing what it always did, turning ambiguity into threat because that was safer than hoping. Hope made you careless. Still, when she stepped into political ethics and saw Blair Knox already seated near the center, Iris felt her stomach tighten. Blair looked up like she'd been waiting. Not desperately, not obviously, just enough to make Iris's pulse stumble. The professor launched into the day's topic: public trust, institutional legitimacy, the moral cost of power. Iris tried to focus, but her attention kept skimming toward Blair the way a tongue returned to a sore tooth. Blair didn't stare. She didn't need to. She watched in fragments, when Iris raised her hand, when she spoke, when she hesitated, and then pushed through anyway. Iris could feel the observation like warmth at the edge of her skin. After class, Blair timed it again. She let the hallway thin, let Iris collect her notebook, tuck her pen away, sling her bag over her shoulder. Then she appeared at Iris's side, like coincidence had chosen them both. "You're consistent," Blair said, walking with her. Iris blinked. "What?" "The way you think," Blair clarified. "You don't talk just to fill space. You actually mean things." Iris felt her face heat. Compliments usually made her suspicious. They often came with a second edge, for someone like you, even if it wasn't spoken. Blair's didn't, or if it did, Iris couldn't hear it yet. "I try," Iris said quietly. Blair's smile softened. "You don't have to try that hard here. People should meet you halfway." The words were simple. They still made Iris's throat tighten. No one at Hawthorne had said something like that to her without it sounding like an orientation speech. "Are you settling in?" Blair asked. "I think so," Iris replied. "It's bigger than my last school." "Better?" Blair asked, brows lifting. Iris hesitated. "I don't know yet." Blair tilted her head, considering her like Iris was worth the time it took to understand. "That's honest." They reached the steps outside, where sunlight had begun to warm the concrete. Blair stopped first, turning toward Iris as if they were in the middle of a conversation that had been going on much longer than a day. "Coffee?" Blair asked. "Not campus coffee, real coffee." Iris's first instinct was to say no. Not because she didn't want to, because she did. She felt it too clearly, the way her body leaned forward before her brain could caution it back, the way her mind began constructing scenes, sitting across from Blair, laughing, being someone that looked like she belonged. Wanting had always cost Iris something, usually dignity, sometimes safety. She forced herself to breathe slowly. "Why?" Iris asked. Blair didn't flinch. "Because I like talking to you." The answer was direct enough to make Iris's chest ache. It would have been easier if Blair had been vague. Flirtation without clarity gave Iris room to protect herself. But Blair's attention felt focused, deliberate, as if she had already decided Iris mattered. Iris looked down at her hands, then back up. "Okay," she said. Blair's smile widened, not triumphant, not mocking, warm. "Tonight," Blair said. "I'll text you." Iris nodded, already regretting that she hadn't asked for details, already afraid she'd sound desperate if she did. Blair seemed to read the hesitation anyway. "After your last class," she added. "There's a place off campus. Quiet." "Okay," Iris repeated, softer. Blair's gaze lingered a moment, then she turned and walked away. Iris watched her go, heart beating too fast for a simple invitation. She felt suddenly exposed, like she'd agreed to something that would now be witnessed, measured, discussed. She shook it off. Normal, she told herself. This is normal. That evening, Iris changed outfits 3 times. She wasn't trying to impress Blair, she told herself. She was trying to look like the kind of person who deserved to be asked out at all. She settled on a simple sweater and jeans, hair pulled back neatly, earrings she'd worn to scholarship interviews because they made her feel competent. At 6:30, Blair texted, "Outside your dorm in 10." Iris stared at the message, heart leaping, then immediately sinking. Outside her dorm was public. She typed a response and deleted it twice before sending, "Okay, be right down." She checked herself in the mirror one last time and forced her shoulders back. When she walked through the lobby, she felt eyes on her, students lounging on couches, scrolling phones, laughing softly. Was she imagining it? Outside, Blair leaned against a car Iris didn't recognize, keys spinning lazily around her finger. She looked effortless, like she'd never once questioned whether she belonged anywhere. When she saw Iris, her face brightened. "You look nice," Blair said. Iris swallowed. "Thanks." Blair opened the passenger door for her with a casual courtesy that felt intimate. Iris slid into the seat, hands folding in her lap to keep them from shaking. As Blair drove, she talked easily about professors, campus politics, the ridiculousness of certain traditions. Iris laughed in the right places, surprised by how quickly she began to relax. The cafe was dim and warm, all soft lighting and quiet music. They found a corner table. Blair ordered for herself confidently, then waited. "What do you like?" she asked Iris. The question, simple as it was, felt like permission. Iris told her. Blair listened. They talked for almost 2 hours, not about nothing, about real things. Iris's transfer, her family, the loneliness she hadn't admitted out loud. Blair shared pieces of herself too, selective but not empty, enough to feel like trust. When Blair laughed, she leaned in without realizing it. When Iris spoke, Blair held her gaze like Iris's words mattered. On the drive back, the silence felt charged, but not uncomfortable. At Iris's dorm, Blair parked and didn't immediately reach for the door handle. "I had a good time," Blair said. Iris nodded, heart thudding. "Me too." Blair's eyes flicked to Iris's mouth, then back up. The moment stretched. Iris didn't move. She didn't know what she was allowed to want. Blair leaned in and kissed her anyway. Soft, brief, almost careful. It was over before Iris could fully process it. Blair pulled back, smiling faintly. "Good night, Iris." Iris sat frozen for half a second. "Good night," she managed. She watched Blair drive away, then walked inside on legs that felt too light. In her room, Iris lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, fingers pressed to her lips like she could confirm the kiss was real. She smiled into her pillow. Then she remembered the voices from the quad. I swear she's starting to believe it. Iris's smile faded, replaced by a tight, hopeful panic. "Please," she thought, "not to anyone in particular. Please don't let this be a joke." The first time Blair didn't acknowledge Iris in public, Iris told herself it was nothing. They crossed paths outside the student union, Blair with her friends, Iris alone, and Blair's eyes slid past her like glass. No smile, no nod, no flicker of recognition. Iris slowed instinctively, then corrected herself, cheeks warming as if she'd imagined the closeness of the night before. She's busy, Iris thought, or distracted. Inside, she replayed the kiss the way one replays proof. It had been real, gentle, intentional. That had to mean something. The pattern formed anyway. In private, Blair was attentive. Texts came late at night, thinking about you, did you eat? And when they met off campus, Blair's focus felt total. She touched Iris's wrist when she laughed, brushed hair from her face with a tenderness that made Iris's chest ache. Blair listened, as if Iris were the only person in the room. In public, Blair was different. She was friendly, but broad with it. Her laughter belonged to everyone. Her attention diffused, never settling on Iris long enough to invite questions. When Iris joined a table, Blair shifted seats. When Iris spoke, Blair answered someone else. It wasn't cruelty, not overtly. It was ambiguity sharpened to a point. Iris learned to watch for the small tells. The way Blair's phone stayed face down during lectures. The way she arrived late to places Iris had already been waiting. The way she left first, always with a reason that sounded reasonable. You're overthinking, Iris told herself. She'd spent years being told that. It had become a reflex. Whispers followed her now. They weren't obvious. They traveled sideways, half glances, mouths that closed mid-sentence, laughter that seemed to find its punchline just as Iris entered the room. Screens went dark when she passed. Notifications stopped abruptly. One afternoon in the library, Iris felt it acutely. She sat down at a long table near a group she recognized from Blair's circle. Their conversation dipped. Someone coughed. Someone else smiled too brightly and asked Iris about her major, then didn't wait for the answer. Iris packed up and moved. That night, she texted Blair, "Did I do something wrong?" The reply came 20 minutes later. "Of course not. Why would you think that?" Iris stared at the screen, fingers hovering. She wanted to explain, to name the feeling, how it was like being seen through, how her presence seemed to thin the air. She deleted 3 drafts and sent only, "Just checking." "You're okay," Blair wrote back. "Don't stress." The words soothed and stung at the same time. A week later, Iris overheard the conversation. It happened by accident, the kind that leaves no one to blame. She was early to a study room and paused in the hallway when she heard her name, spoken lightly, like a token passed between hands. "How long is this supposed to last?" "Until she figures it out. Or until Blair gets bored." Laughter followed. Not loud. Comfortable. Iris's vision narrowed. The hallway tilted, then steadied. She pressed her back to the wall, breath shallow, listening as if hearing more might change what she already understood. "It's not that deep," someone said. "She's sweet. She'll be fine." Sweet. Iris waited until the voices moved on before she stepped into the study room. She sat down, hands trembling, and stared at her notes without seeing them. Her thoughts collapsed inward, rearranging everything she'd believed about the last few weeks. "You misread it," she told herself. "You always do." She didn't confront Blair. Not then. Confrontation required certainty, and Iris had learned to survive without it. Instead, she tried to become easier, quieter, less demanding. She laughed when Blair teased her. She stopped asking for time. She thanked Blair for crumbs of attention like they were gifts. She believed, foolishly, that if she didn't ask questions, the truth wouldn't hurt as much. But the game didn't need her participation to continue. At a small gathering in a friend of a friend's apartment, Blair arrived late and loud, slipping easily into the center of the room. Iris stood near the kitchen, nursing a drink she hadn't wanted, watching Blair's eyes scan the space. They met Iris's for half a second. Then Blair looked away. Iris felt the heat rise to her face, the old instinct to disappear surging hard. She set the cup down and slipped into the hallway, leaning against the wall until her breathing slowed. She told herself she'd leave in 5 minutes. Before she could count to 100, someone brushed past her, phone in hand. On the screen, Iris caught a glimpse of a message thread, her name circled in a screenshot, reactions stacked beneath it like applause. The door to the room closed softly behind her. Iris slid down the wall and sat on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. She understood it now. Not all of it, but enough. The warmth, the distance, the careful way Blair kept her close and far at the same time. This wasn't confusion. It was a game, and Iris had been playing it without ever agreeing to the rules. Iris almost didn't go. The party was a few blocks off campus, in a house rented by seniors who hosted gatherings the way they hosted everything else, curated, controlled, invitation only, but somehow always crowded. Iris had heard about it through a classmate who said, casually, that she should come loosen up. The tone made it sound like kindness. The subtext felt like a test. Iris stood in front of her mirror for a long time, fingers resting on the edge of the sink, watching her own face try to arrange itself into confidence. "If I stay home, I'm letting them decide who I am," she thought. That was the only reason she went. The house smelled like perfume and spilled alcohol and someone's expensive candle trying to cover both. Music pulsed through walls. Laughter rose and fell in waves that never quite reached the corners where people like Iris hovered. She moved through the living room carefully, nodding to faces she recognized but didn't know. She didn't drink much. She didn't cling to anyone. She kept her shoulders back, chin lifted, performing a steadiness she didn't feel. She was almost proud of herself. Then she saw Blair. Blair stood near the kitchen, framed by warm light and attention, laugh easy as she leaned toward someone whispering in her ear. She looked effortless, as if the room belonged to her. When her gaze flicked across the crowd and landed on Iris, it paused, just long enough to acknowledge her presence. Iris's heart lurched. Blair smiled faintly, then turned away. The familiar drop hit Iris's stomach, cold and fast. Still, she stayed. She told herself she wasn't going to chase. She wasn't going to be the girl who waited by doors for someone else's approval. She found a spot near the hallway, where the noise softened. She watched the room with the calm focus of someone trying to find exits. That was when the joke got too loud. It started as laughter, sharp and sudden, at the far end of the living room. A cluster of students gathered closer, phones out, faces lit by screens and cruelty. Someone raised their voice over the music, exaggerated for an audience. She really thought it was real. More laughter. Iris's skin prickled. She didn't move at first. She waited for context that would let her pretend it wasn't about her. That was what her brain always did, offered denial as a shield. Then she heard her name. Iris, no, because tell me why she's literally thanking Blair for basic attention, someone said, laughing hard enough to choke. Like it's charity. The room tilted. Iris stepped forward without meaning to. The crowd didn't notice her at first. They were too engaged, too entertained. A phone screen turned slightly, and Iris caught a glimpse of something that made her lungs lock. A screenshot. A group chat thread, cropped but unmistakable, her name typed with casual possession. Reactions stacked beneath it, fire emojis, laughing faces, a poll with options. How long should Blair keep it going? A, 1 week; B, 2 weeks; C, until she figures it out underneath. A message from Blair. She's starting to believe it. The words Iris had heard weeks ago, now pinned to proof. Her blood turned to ice. Someone beside the phone holder whistled. 2 weeks is generous. She's so easy. Another voice chimed in, too loud, too pleased with itself. Honestly, Blair deserves extra credit for acting that interested. The laughter that followed wasn't even nervous. It was comfortable. Iris looked up, scanning faces, and found Blair across the room. Blair had gone still, not shocked, not outraged, just paused, like someone deciding whether denial would cost more than silence. For a moment, Iris waited, stupidly, hopefully, for Blair to step forward and shut it down, to say it wasn't true, to say they were wrong, to say she'd never. Blair didn't. Her gaze met Iris's, held, then slid away. The silence was louder than any confession. Iris felt something inside her collapse, sharp and internal, a familiar sensation she had thought she'd outgrown. Shame and disbelief blurred together until she couldn't tell which hurt more. She didn't cry. Not there. She didn't shout, didn't beg for explanation, didn't throw a drink or make a scene the way everyone would have expected, the way they would have loved to record. Instead, Iris took a slow breath through her nose, steadying her body the way she did when a patient was bleeding out and panic would make things worse. She turned. As she walked toward the door, people parted without meaning to. The room shifted around her, a ripple of discomfort finally arriving too late. Someone muttered, "Oh, she heard." Another voice said, quieter, "That's messed up." Iris didn't look back. Outside, the night air hit her like a slap, cold, clean, unforgiving. Her hands were shaking now, fingers numb. She walked fast at first, then slower, as if moving too quickly would break something she was still holding together. Half a block away, she stopped under a streetlight and pressed her palm to her chest, trying to slow her heart. This was the moment she used to disappear, the moment she used to turn inward, swallow it, become smaller until no one could find her again. But Iris stared into the dark street and made a different decision. Not dramatic, just deliberate. This time, she thought, breath uneven, I'm not going to vanish for their comfort. And somewhere behind her, the party resumed, quieter now, uneasier, but still moving, still alive, still full of people who had never learned what it cost to be someone else's game.